Okay, can you people see the screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you people can see the screen. Okay, very good. So this is how I will be writing on the thing. So this is JNC Basic Maths. Okay, and my name is Ramasesha. I am from IISc. So I'm actually a honorary emeritus faculty in IISc. And just a minute, I want to know how to. One second, please. Okay, let it be there. Okay, so this course will consist of, the timings of the course are Monday and Wednesday, 10:30 to 12. And this Friday, 10th September, we have a extra class, basically to make up for the last class on Wednesday, last week. Okay, and then and this course will consist of 2 exams. Let me make it black. 2 exams and assignments. And assignments have to be submitted on time to Mr. Dash. And exams, we'll schedule the exams. One as a midterm exam sometime in the month of November, and the final exam sometime in the last week of December or first week of January. And the assignments will carry 10%, and 2 exams will carry 40% plus 50%. And one thing I want to make clear to you right now is the following. That is, in all these exams, okay, you have to, the grading will be completely based on your performance in the exams. So grading is only dependent on your performance in the exams. Grading depends on 10% on the assignment and 40 and 50% respectively for the exams in the first and the midterm and the final. So grading depends on your performance. And grades are something that you are going to earn. It is not something that I'm going to give. Okay, you do well, you earn a good grade. You don't do well, you earn a bad grade. And I'm a person who believes in giving all the grades. Whatever is the letter grade that is there. So I'm not. Don't come back to me and say, "See, I'm having problem with courses. Please improve my grade and all that." Those things are not going to wash, and I'm going to give a grade depending upon what grade you have earned or you have deserved. And I'm not going to make any compromise on that. I'm telling you right in the first day. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So at least, when I ask a question, please unmute and answer. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I will talk, my first topic is going to be vectors and vectors. So all of you people know about scalars. Examples of scalars. What are the examples of scalars? Hello? Are you people able to hear me?
Length is a scalar quantity, sir.
I am asking you for examples of scalars. So at least one of you can come up with it.
Work done.
So length.
What's it?
Length, sir, length.
Length.
Yes, sir.
Any other example?
Work done.
Distance.
Work.
Huh?
Work.
Work.
Yes.
energy, if you want to call it. Okay, work or
Okay,
energy.
yes, energy.
And then you will have mass, you have temperature,
Distance.
but then you also have quantities which are called
Speed.
vectors. So we have vector quantities. So vector quantities are things like velocity,
Displacement.
force, etc., etc. Okay, and what are these vector quantities? Vector quantities have a direction and a magnitude. So we are talking about 3 dimensions and 2 dimensions only in this case. So we will be having either a direction in a plane or direction in a 3-dimensional space is what we'll be talking about mostly in this topic on vectors. Okay, so vectors can be generally represented by an arrow. Straight line arrow, and you generally mark the beginning of the arrow say as P and the end of the arrow is, let us say, Q. Okay, so the beginning P is the origin, Q is the terminus, and PQ is a line of action. This is a line of action, and it also tells you the magnitude, and the length of the arrow gives the magnitude. And you can always, and you can multiply this by scalars. Okay, a vector can be multiplied by a scalar. So this will change length, as well as can reverse the direction. So simple example is, supposing I have an arrow something like this, and I multiply it by say 2, then I'll get an arrow which is twice its length. Okay, if I multiply it by -1, I'll get something that goes like this, reversed, and I can also multiply it by any scalar, 0.1, 2, or whatever you want. Okay, so that's all that you can know about how the scalars and multiply into the vectors. Now we have addition of vectors. How do you add vectors? So addition of vectors is, there is what's called the parallelogram law of addition. In parallelogram law of addition, supposing you want to add 2 vectors A plus B, let us say that A is this vector and B is this vector. Okay. So what it means by adding A plus B is just simply bringing B, the origin of the B, to coincide with the terminus of A, and then to take the origin of A and draw a line to the terminus of B. So this is A plus B. Okay, so this is the parallelogram law of addition. And why is it actually called a parallelogram law of addition? Because A plus B is actually commutative. That is, it's equal to B plus A. So what do you mean by commutative? I can bring B such that it moves here first and then I can bring in A. So if I take B plus A, so this A actually goes here. Okay, so this is B, this is A, because B have this thing translated the vector to the origin here, and then I translated vector A to the terminus of such that the origin of A coincides with the terminus of B, and then I'm looking at what the resultant is exactly the same as before. Okay, so this is the resultant. So what you find in this one is that basically what it is going to tell you is that how you go from a origin to a terminus when you add. Okay, so it's basically the route that you take. For example, you can take a route which goes like this one. One second. Yeah. What we say is that, one second, just have to get the some kind of a pointer. It's okay. I don't need the pointer if it doesn't come. So what we will do is simply that, I'm taking A from here to there and then B. So it's a matter of how you go from the origin of one vector to the terminus of the other vector. Okay, that's what it means continuously. That's what you mean by addition of vectors. So this addition of vectors is actually not only commutative, it's also associative, in the sense that supposing I'm having A plus B plus C, so this is equal to A plus B plus C. So you can add first the two vectors B and C and then add the resultant to vector A, or take the two vectors A and B, add them, and then add the resultant of the vectors A and B to C. The result that you are going to get is going to be the same. So this is the law of addition. And we also have another simple rule that you can say, that is M times A M times A plus B is actually equal to M times A plus M times B. So you can multiply a scalar through that. Okay, and what do you mean by subtraction of vectors? So let us see what is subtraction of vectors. And in subtraction of vectors, what you do is you have the vector A and you have the vector B. So let us say that this is the vector A and this is the vector B. Okay, so supposing I want to know what is A minus B, then I'm going to reverse this vector A, B. So what I'll get is the following. This is A, and then I have reversed the vector B. And when you reverse the vector B, you see that the terminus of the two vectors are the same, but that is not the rule for addition or subtraction. So what you have to do is you have to bring the terminus down. So what you will do is this you will write as A, and then you write this as minus B, and from the terminus of A, the terminus of minus B to the origin of A, you draw the line, and this is the vector A minus B. Okay, which means that you have gone in the plus A direction some distance, and from there you have gone back down in the minus B direction, and the resultant is as though you have gone from the origin to the tip of minus b, and that is what is actually we mean by subtraction of vectors. So subtraction of vectors is just adding minus b. Addition of minus 1 times vector 2 to vector 1. So this is the subtraction of vectors. Now you see, usually we are in three-dimensional space. Okay, when we are in three-dimensional space, we can think of Cartesian coordinates. So when we think of Cartesian coordinates, so usually you think of them as x, y, z. One second. Yeah. Are you people listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because I lost the screen. Just 1 second. I have to go back to my. Oh. Just seeing where I put my. Did I close it accidentally? Windows Journal. Okay, so looks like I lost my previous one because by mistake I pressed something. Okay, but hopefully that is recorded and so you will still be able to get it. So I was talking about the three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate systems. So that usually you have what you have is the following, right? You have three vectors. Let me call this x, y, and z. So this is actually a right-handed coordinate system, and I advise you always to use right-handed coordinate system unless there is a particular reason why you have to use a left-handed coordinate system. In the right-handed coordinate system, if you rotate from x to y, okay, then a screw, if you are rotating, should go in the direction of your thumb. Okay, so if I rotate it from x to y, it goes up in the direction of z, and this is called the right-handed coordinate system. Because a screw with the right hand thread will go this way. So this is called the right-handed coordinate system. Okay, so for me it is much better to use instead of a right-handed coordinate system. I mean, I will use a right-handed coordinate system, but instead of using x, y, and z, I will use I1, I2, I3 as the axis because it becomes easier to generalize it later on. So it's exactly the same one. I1 is x, I2 is y, I3 is z. Now if I take any vector A, because of the parallelogram law of addition, I can think of it as adding A1 times I1 plus A2 times I2 plus A3 times I3 as the vector A. Okay, so this is how you usually represent vectors in terms of in three dimensions in terms of the coordinates along the x, y, and z. Because if you look at this coordinates are A1, A2, A3, if this is, then you will see that this one is A1, this one is A2, and this height is A3. And if you add A1, I1 plus A2, I2 plus A3, I3 using the parallelogram law of addition, then you will see you will get the vector A. So every vector can be expressed in terms of a triad of numbers a1, a2, a3 in terms of basis vectors I1, I2, and I3. So that is possible because of the parallelogram law of addition. So we have just used the parallelogram law of addition to represent vectors in terms of basis vectors, which are I1, I2, and I3. So these I1, I2, I3 will actually be called the basis vectors. We'll talk more about it later on. So now I have basically talked about the addition of vectors. Addition and subtraction of vectors is what I have talked about so far. Now I want to talk about multiplication of vectors. So we want multiplication of vectors. In this one, you have really have two kinds of multiplications. One which leads to a scalar, and two which leads to a vector. So one is called the vector product and the other is called the scalar product. This is also called dot product. This is also called cross product. And these are necessitated by the following. Supposing you have a force, okay, and you want to calculate the work done when the force acts on an object. How do you calculate the work done? I'm asking a question. One of you can answer.
F dot ds.
So it's actually force multiplied by distance the object moved in the direction of the force. Okay, so what it implies is the following. This will give me, if this is the force and this is the displacement because of the force, we call it displacement d. Then, and if this is the angle theta, then the distance that the object has moved along the direction of the force is d cos theta. Okay, and multiplied by the force F, the magnitude. Okay, so we can say what the dot product is. D dot F is equal to modulus D modulus F cosine theta. Right? So now let us look at two Cartesian vectors that we are looking at. That is, let me look at two vectors A, which is given by A1 I1 plus A2 I2 plus A3 I3, and another vector B, which is given by B1 I1 plus B2 I2 plus B3 I3. Okay. Now I want to find out what is A dot B. So to calculate this, you must know how to multiply sums of vectors. Okay. So supposing you have two vectors, D1 plus D2 dot F1 plus F2, let us say, then this is actually equal to D1 dot F1 plus D1 dot F2 plus D2 dot F1 plus D2 dot F2. This is the rule for actually multiplying two vectors. Okay, So if we are trying to multiply two vectors, then what will happen is that I will have this one will be a1 b1 into cosine of the angle between I1 and I1 plus a1 b2 into cosine of the angle between I1 and I2. Okay. So this is the cosine of the angle. So let me use just a comma to represent the angle between the two vectors. Okay. And we will have plus a1 b3 times cosine of the angle I1 I3 and so on and so forth. Okay. So now plus up to a3 b3 cosine of the angle I3 I3. So in a rectangular Cartesian coordinate system, what is the angle between I1 and I2? Hello.
90 degrees.
90 degree.
90
90
degrees.
degree.
So I1 I2 is 90 degrees, I1 I3 is 90 degrees, I2 I3 is 90 degrees, and so on, right? So what will happen to the cosine of the function? Cosine of the angle,
Zero.
what happens to it?
0.
0. And what the angle between I1 and I1?
0.
0 degree.
0. So what happens to the
0.
cosine of the angle?
1. 1.
1.
1.
So because we know the angles, so we can write this one as a1 b1 plus a2 b2 plus a3 b3. So you see that taking a dot product is so simple if you have a basis which is a Cartesian basis. Similarly, I forgot to say that if you want to add two vectors a plus b, okay, you had, this is something I should have done before. Plus I1 b1 plus I2 b2 plus I3 b3, and because addition is distributive and also you can add in any fashion that you want, I have a1 plus b1 times I1 plus a2 plus b2 times I2 plus a3 plus b3 times I3. So this will be the result. So that C equal to A plus B, then we have C1 equal to A1 plus B1, C2 equal to A2 plus B2, C3 equal to A3 plus B3. And if you are looking at A dot B, which is a scalar equal to some scalar D. So this is equal to A1 B1 plus A2 B2 plus A3 B3. Okay. So we have already learned a little bit about how the product of two vectors, the scalar product in Cartesian coordinates, how to get it. And it is also distributive, which we have already used the property while showing that A dot B in terms of the basis vectors I1, I2, and I3, we use a distributive property. Okay, now having said this, let me go to the other product that we have, which is what's called the vector product. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Yes.
No.
No, things are clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah, okay, so if you have any questions, you please raise the hands or else unmute your laptop and speak directly. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me proceed further. What is a vector product? See, often we are interested in something like, you know, if I'm given two vectors A and B, I'm interested in what is the area that is covered by these two vectors A and B. So what is the area covered? It's actually the perpendicular distance between that is there in the parallelogram that is formed by the vectors A and B. So this is the perpendicular distance, the height, okay, multiplied by the base of one of those things, right? Into base of the parallelogram. So if I want to know what the perpendicular distance is, if this is theta, so you will see that the perpendicular distance is b sine theta. So the area will be equal to modulus A modulus B sine theta. So now the question is, what is the direction? And does the area have a direction? I'm asking a question. Does the area have a direction? Any answers? Does the area have a direction? No?
It's perpendicular to the A and B vectors. Like
See, because if you take a cube, all the 6 faces that you have, okay, are all in different directions. So if you want to say the area of the face in the XY plane, you say the direction is either positive Z or negative Z. Okay, depends on the convention that you are going to use. So in this case, we will take it as this thing positive Z. So which means again it's a right-handed coordinate system. So the direction of the vector is perpendicular to the AB plane plane and is a and is in the right hand thumb rule. That is, if you go from A to B using the right hand, and then you find out that the vector points in the plus up direction. So the direction of the vector in this case is C equal to A cross B. The direction is upward normal in the AB plane of the AB plane. So that's how you get the direction of the cross product. Now I want to know how we can get the cross product in terms of the components of the vector. So what we have is the following. That is, I want to find out what is if C is equal to A cross B, we want to know C1, C2, and C3 in terms of A1, A2, A3 and B1, B2, B3. For this, I use the following rule. That is, number 1, C is perpendicular to A, and number 2, C is perpendicular to B, right? Because that is what I have defined as a cross product direction. So if C is perpendicular to A, what it means is that C dot A equal to 0 is equal to C1A1 plus C2A2 plus C3A3 is equal to 0. Okay. So, and C dot B equal to 0 means C1B1 plus C2B2 plus C3B3, that's equal to 0. So now we have two simultaneous equations, so we can solve for, say, C1 and C2 in terms of C3. So how do I solve it? I will substitute for C3 from equation 2 in equation 1. So I have C1A1 plus C2A2 plus C3 will be minus C1B1 minus C2B2. Okay, divided by B3 into A3 is equal to 0. Right? So now I can take the coefficients of C1 and C2 together. So I'll have minus C1, minus C1B1, this is right. Minus C1B1 minus C2B2 divided by into A3 divided by B3. Okay, so that is C3. So when I work on this one, what I'll get is C1 into A1 minus B1 A3 by B3 is equal to, I'll take C2 on the other side, C2 into B2A3 B1 A3 by is it B3? Yeah, minus C2 B2 I have C2 times B2 A2 C1 B1 minus C2 B2 by into A3 by C3. Okay, so into, sorry, let me do it carefully. C2 into A2 minus or minus A2 plus C2 will not come there. I'll have B2A3 by B3. Okay, so now I can simplify this one. So I can write it as C1 into A1 B3 minus B1 A3 divided by B3 is equal to C2 into B2A3 minus B3A2 divided by B3, or I will get the following. Or I can cancel out the C1 and C2. So what I'll get is C1 by C1 divided by C2 is equal to B2A3 minus B3A2 divided by A1B3 minus B1A3, or I can write down the following, that is C1 divided by B2A3 minus B3A2 is equal to C2 divided by A1B3 minus B1A3. And if I were to do a similar thing with eliminating C2 instead of C1, then I can also get another relationship, which will be like C3 divided by B2A3 divided by, so A1 will go to C1,
I guess.
sorry, it's not C1. Somebody said something?
A1 B2 minus B2 A1.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the signature, these signs are correct. But anyway, I'll take your word for it and I'll take this one. Okay. So this is one thing that I get, and another relationship that I have to find out, and let us say that this is equal to constant k. Okay, which means that the vector C can be written as, okay, k times A2B3 is A cross B, so I have made a mistake. A2B3 minus A3B2 times I1 plus,
Sir, it will be B1 A2 minus B2 A1.
which one?
Sir, the last C3 upon B1
Okay.
A2.
A1?
So B1 A2, last C3 upon.
Oh, I've made a, yeah.
Those should go in a rotation. Yeah.
So sign is changed. Is it correct now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. So, and then the second one will be A1 B3 minus B1 A3 times I2, and then plus B1 A2 minus B2 A1 times I3. Okay. Now what I know is that K dot K is equal to modulus A modulus B sine sine of the angle between the two, sine phi, right? So if I want to get that, so if I want to get that, what I'll have to do is again take the dot product of these vectors here. C dot C is not K dot K. I'm sorry. This is C dot C. Okay, so that will give me K squared times,
Square.
huh? K squared times A2B3 minus A3B2 into I1 cross I2 I have to take, right? Because what I have is C1 I1 plus C2 I2 plus C3 I3. Okay, so I'm taking the dot product of these. So when I'm taking the dot product, then I'll take C1 squared plus C2 squared plus C3 squared. Okay, and so this will be modulus squared. Is it correct? Because what is the modulus of C? What is the magnitude of C? It's AB sine phi, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
because I want response, because I can't even see your faces, so it's very difficult for me to know, whether you are responding or not. So you have to use your voice. Okay, so I have this C1, C2, and C3. So it is C1 squared plus C2 squared plus C3 squared. That is equal to A squared, B squared times sin squared phi. Okay, so I can substitute for K, and then I'll have this thing. So plus A1 B3 minus B1 A3 squared plus B1 A2 minus B2 A1 squared. Right? So I also have, so now I want to find out what K is from these quantities. So this is equal to modulus A squared modulus B squared times sin squared phi, or okay. So if you did this, if you try to solve this, what you will get actually is the following. That is, I can express A cross B. I'll get K as equal to +1. So if I want to solve this, I'll leave it to you for solving it. So I'll get K is equal to 1. Then we can write A cross B as a determinant. I1, I2, I3, A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3. So that's how you get determinant when you are writing out a cross product of two vectors. Any questions? Any questions?
Sir, could you please repeat this argument once? From C dot C, I couldn't follow from there.
Okay, so let me repeat myself the whole thing. Okay. So we have said what the direction of the vector product is. Okay. The direction of the vector product is perpendicular to A and B, right? So C equal to A cross B, which is the vector product of A and B. The direction of C is perpendicular to both A and B. So which means that C dot A must be equal to 0 because the angle between C and A is 90 degrees. Cosine 90 is 0. Similarly, C dot B is equal to 0 because the angle between C and B is also 90 degrees. So what we get is C1A1 plus C2A2 plus C3A3 is equal to 0. And B1A1, C1B1 plus C2B2 plus C3B3 is also equal to 0. But we only have 2 equations and 3 unknowns, right? So what I will do is I'll try to solve this in terms of one of the, I will eliminate one of the unknowns and I only get the ratios. So if I eliminate C3 between the 2 equations, then what I will get is the following, what I have shown here. So this is the equation that I get if I eliminate C3 from equations 1 and 2. Okay. I use equation 2 to eliminate, to get an expression for C3. Okay. And then in terms of C1, C2, and B2, and B1, B2, and B3, and I plug it in here. And once I plug it in there, then I'll get the following. That is, I'll get this quantity, which is C1A1 plus C2A2 plus minus C1B1 minus C2B2 by B3 times A3 equal to 0. So I can rearrange it. And because it is 0, I take the C2 part onto the right hand side. Okay, that's the step that I jumped. I have C1 times this, and the C2 part I have taken to the right hand side. Then what I get is C1 into this quantity equal to C2 into this quantity. Or I have the ratio C1 by C2 is equal to B2A3 minus B3A2 divided by A1 B3 minus B1 A3. Or I can write it as C1 divided by B2 A3 is equal to C2 divided by A1 B3 minus B1 A3. Okay, next what I can do is I can eliminate C2 between equations 1 and 2. Right? So I can eliminate C2. So I can write C2 as equal to C3B3 minus of C3B3 minus of C1B1 divided by B2. And I can plug it in here for C2. So I get the ratio in terms of C1 and C3. So because C1 is common, the three ratios will all be equal, which is this quantity, that is C1 by B2 minus A3, B2 A3 minus B3 A2 is equal to C2 divided by B1 A3 minus B1 A minus B1 A3 equal to C3 divided by B1 A2 minus A1 B2, and that's equal to, let us say, a constant K. Okay. Now I want to find out what the constant K is. To find out what the constant K is, what I'll do is I'll use the fact that C has the length of C is nothing but A squared B squared or AB times sine phi. Okay, or C dot C is equal to A squared B squared sine squared phi, because the magnitude of C is modulus A modulus B sine phi, where phi is the angle between the two vectors A and B. Okay, so if I want to plug it in here, then I will get an equation which I have not solved. I just left it for you people to solve it. It's a trivial thing, and it's just time consuming for me to write it down. So if you have any problem in solving that, get back to me in the next class. I will do it in the next class. But otherwise, I assume that you can do it. And if you do that, then you will see that A cross B can be represented in terms of, as a determinant, in terms of I1, I2, A3, A1, A2, A3, and B1, B2, B3. So this is the form that you are to most probably come across. I am sure that most of you have done vector algebra, would have come across this form of the cross product. Am I right? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
you
sir.
do, okay. So you can get the cross product in this fashion. So now, having got the cross product, so let us see where actually it becomes important. Okay. So for example, supposing I'm looking at a disk that is rotating. Okay. So let the center of the disk be, origin is here. So the center of the disk is at that point. And the angular velocity what is angular velocity? Anyone knows what is angular velocity?
It's R cross V.
No, I want it in physical terms.
Angular distance covered per unit time.
Is it the distance or is it the angle?
Angular distance, I said.
It's
Angular
number of
distance.
radians per second. Okay. That's the reason why the relation between actual frequency, this thing, ordinary velocity and omega is, 2 pi omega, 2 pi times omega. But now let me come back to here. So supposing I'll say that omega is a vector because direction is perpendicular to the plane of rotation. And for right-handed or clockwise rotation, for right-handed system, I think it is clockwise. No, anti-clockwise. Omega is above the plane of the rotation. Okay, so now if I want to know what the velocity is, at a point P or P, whatever you want to call. So what I have is, I want to know what is the velocity with which this point P is moving. Okay, and this is the vector R. Okay, and the velocity with which it is moving, and the direction of R is the direction of omega. So what we have is velocity of the point P, or V of P, is equal to omega cross R. So all you need to do is take the cross product of the angular velocity and the position vector R. Here I will call it the vector P, because R is a little confusing. Okay, and that quantity is this, right? So this is the circle in which it is rotating. Okay, so if you are looking at that circle, the radius of that circle passing through P is nothing but P sine phi, where the angle phi is this one and omega is also in the same direction. Okay, so the angle between R and P is the same as the angle between omega and P. So that is phi, so that is P sine phi, and P sine phi is what? So this is phi, so P sine phi is this quantity. Okay, so it just becomes radius times the angular velocity is the the linear velocity. Okay, so that's how we get the use the cross product to get the linear velocity of a particle which is actually rotating around the axis. Any questions so far? Hello, any questions? Yes or no? Does anyone have a question? Okay,
No, sir.
because you people are not answering, I assume there are no questions.
So could you explain again with the figure?
What is it?
Could you explain again with the figure?
Okay, the rotation.
Yeah.
See, you have this disk which is rotating. Okay, and I'm taking a point P in the disk. I want to know what is the velocity of that particular point P. Okay, so when there is a rotation is actually can be represented by a vector. The magnitude of the vector is equal to the angular velocity of the rotation. That is the number of radians it spans per second. And the direction is perpendicular to the direction of the plane of the disk that is rotating. Okay, so which is the same as the direction R that I have, which is a radial vector between an origin and the center of the disk. Okay, and then I look at the vector P, which is between the origin and the point P. Okay, the velocity of the point P is given by omega cross P, and omega cross P is omega P sine phi. Okay, and phi is the angle between omega and P, which is the same as the angle between the radial vector R and the vector P. Okay, so that's the reason why I'll get velocity as omega cross P. This is sine phi, not sine theta. So, okay, because let me be consistent. Any is it clear now?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions? If you don't respond, I won't ask you that question again.
Yes, sir.
I can continue?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So, and you know, the cross product is also distributive. Which means A cross B plus C is equal to A cross B plus A cross C. Now, I just want to ask you a simple question. So I give you this vector C is equal to A cross B. Okay. What is B cross A? What is the vector B cross A?
Negative C.
Minus.
Loud, loud,
Minus
loud.
C. Minus C.
Minus C. Why is it minus C?
Because the direction will be changed. When the arrangement of the A and B, position of the A and B is changed.
Yeah, but you can also look at it this way. That is, you have the determinant, you interchange two rows of a determinant, the determinant changes sign, right?
Right. Yes, right.
So that's how we can know that, you know, B cross A is equal to minus C, minus A cross B. Okay, now let me, so vector products is something that you will keep coming across in three-dimensional problems. And vector product is only defined in three-dimensional problems, okay? So you will come across vector products for studying things like angular momentum. In quantum mechanics, when you want to study angular momentum is a vector product of the radial position times the linear momentum. And similarly, you can get the torque is equal to R cross F. So that's also another vector product, okay? And the torque acting on a magnetic moment. So supposing you have a magnetic moment M and you have a magnetic field H, M and H are not collinear. Then you have a torque tau, which is equal to M cross H. Okay, you will come across this, for example, when you are studying magnetic resonance. Okay, so and whenever you want to define moment of a vector about a point, okay, the definition of moment of a vector about a point is the following. Supposing this is the point, let me call it O, and this is the vector R, or this is the vector A. Okay, so if this is the vector R, moment of A about R is equal to A cross R. Okay, this is the definition. So this tells you how much effect the force A will have on trying to rotate around the point O. Okay, so this is the moment of a vector, and you will come across this one in classical mechanics. Okay, so that is the reason why you need to know about cross products. So now let me go to multiple products. So obviously, you know, when you got multiple products, it means that you will be having three vectors, okay, at least three vectors. A, B, and C are involved. So one of the multiple products you can think of is the vector scalar triple product of vectors, three vectors, scalar product of three vectors. So we can have A dot B cross C. Okay. And obviously, I have to put the brackets around B and C, because unless B cross C is a vector, I can't have A dot B. So I cannot write it like this, right? A dot B cross C doesn't make any sense because this is a scalar. Okay, so it has to be B cross C taking the dot product with A. So what does it give? So let us take the three vectors. Okay, let me take the vector A, vector B, and a vector C. Okay, so now what does vector B cross C give you? It gives you the area of the parallelogram which are having edges B and C. Okay, so now look at A. Okay, so when you look at A dot B cross C gives perpendicular distance between side A and B cross C. Okay, so I could have probably rewritten the axis just to make it easier to understand. So I could have taken this to be A, and this to be B, and this to be C. So B cross C gives me this area. Okay, let me draw the parallelepiped. Okay, so now what A dot B cross C gives me is the perpendicular distance. Okay, so it's the area of the BC plane multiplied by the perpendicular distance between the BC plane here and the BC plane, which is at the top, at the end of the arrow, right? So this is one BC plane, okay, and the second BC plane is here. So the top plane is another BC plane, the bottom plane is one BC plane. They are displaced by a distance which is A cosine of this angle. Okay, and what you will see is that this product will give me volume of the parallelepiped. And you can see, and it gives the product of the perpendicular distance between A and B cross C and the area of B cross C. So that is nothing but the area of the parallelepiped, right? A dot B cross C will give you the area of the parallelepiped. Other volume of the parallelepiped. So A dot B cross C is equal to volume of the parallelepiped formed by the three vectors. Oh, something happened to my screen. Let me kill it. Go to another screen. Oh, this is a old one. Okay. Let me go down. Okay, so what A dot B cross C? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
So
sir,
we are
but-
not able to
sir.
see the screen.
You're not able to?
Is not visual.
Oh, I have not shared the screen, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So A dot B cross C gives the volume enclosed by the parallelepiped formed by A and B, A, B and C. So how do you get this one? So I know that B cross C is given by this quantity. I1, I2, I3, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3. Right, so what is A dot B cross C? It has to be a dot product involving the coefficients, right? The components, right? So you just have to replace I1, I2, I3 by A1, A2, A3, okay? Okay, so that gives me the volume. Any questions?
In the figure you drew in the last slide, like in the
What?
diagram pipette,
What did I do?
yeah, the angle was, you said that cosine of that theta. I think the angle was not marked. I mean,
See,
the
this
figure
is-
is not
this was-
visible now.
This was B,
Yeah,
this was C,
yes,
and this was A,
yes.
okay? So, and I had taken B cross C is the area and the vector is perpendicular to this,
Yes.
right? This is the vector B cross C,
Yes.
and this is the angle theta that B cross C makes with A, okay? And
Is
that
that
gives me
good?
the perpendicular distance.
I think then this is not the angle. Just coincide the origin of the vector. Then the angle is the 90 minus theta actually. Isn't it?
So B cross C times no, A dot B cross C is going to give me, oh yes. Okay, so the way you are saying the way I'm
That is
defining
90
theta
minus.
is,
Yeah, in this way that
90
is
minus theta. Yeah, yeah,
because
okay,
theta.
okay, you are right. Yeah, you are right. What I'm saying is that the theta, okay. What he's saying is that theta is not, is the projection of A onto the B cross C. So which means that if this is C here, then this is the angle theta, not the other angle. Okay,
That is B cross C, not C. B cross C,
B
yes.
cross C.
not C. Yes.
So B cross C is this vector. Okay, let me write it a bit better. So this is the vector B cross C. Okay, and I've just transposed the vector B cross C here, and I have taken the projection of vector A on B cross C. Okay, yeah, thanks for correcting. And by the way, this is very important in calculating unit cell volumes. So when you get the X-ray data and you want to find out what the unit cell volume is, then you have the primitive lattice vectors A and B, A, B, and C, then you can calculate the volume of the unit cell, which is important to know the density and various other things. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Okay, so now we can have various different kinds of products. Okay, so I have A dot B cross C I've got, and the other product that I can think of is A cross B cross C. Okay, and this is in general not equal to A cross B cross C. So how do you find out what is A cross B cross C? Well, it's quite simple. So let me assume that B cross C is equal to D. Okay, and the vector T has the components B3 C B1 C2 minus. Okay, let me write it in my own fashion. So B1 C2 minus B2 C3 times B3 plus, so this will be B3 C1 minus B3 C2 minus B2 C3 times D1 plus B1 C3 minus B3 C1 times D2 plus this, right? So that is what the vector D is. So now if you want to get A cross B cross C, then this will turn out to be nothing but determinant I1, I2, I3, okay, A1, A2, A3, and I have B3, C2 minus B2, C3, and then B1, C3 minus B3, C1, and B1, C2
I think the first coefficient will be B2C3 minus B3C2.
yeah, okay. B2 goes to B3, C1 minus C3, B1, and then B1, C2 minus, this is B2, C1.
Uh,
Okay. So this you can actually expand. And if you expand, you'll get the following. So you get I1 is going to be A2, B1 C2 minus A2 B2 C1 right, and then minus of A3 into minus of A3 into B1 C2 minus A3 B2 C1.
B3 C1 B3 C3 D1.
I have just a minute. A1 into, I mean rather I have I1 into this thing A2 B1 C2 minus A2 B2 C1. Is it correct? Minus of A3 C3 B1. Correct? Is it right?
Yes, sir.
And plus other components. Okay, so let me call this as the vector F. So I have the component F1 is actually equal to A2 C2 B1 plus A3 C3 B1 minus of A2 B2 C1 plus A3 B3 C1, right? So I can actually write it in the following fashion. So I1 times F1 is equal to A2 C2 B1 I1. Oh, sorry. Just let me add up things. A2 C2 plus A3 C3. Let me also add up A1 B1, A1 C1 times B1 times I1 minus of A2 B2 plus A3 B3 minus of plus A1 B1 times C1 times I1, right? Because what I have done is basically I added A1 C1 here, A1 C1 B1, and I have subtracted A1 C1 B1 here because there's a minus sign here. Do you see that? Do you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So once you see that, then I can actually write this one as A dot C times B1 I1 minus of A dot B times C1 I1, right? Or else I can write for the entire vector F1, F is equal to A dot C times the vector B1 minus A dot B times the vector C1. Is that correct? Because the same thing happens with other coefficients. I will have A dot C times B2 times I2 minus A dot B times C2 times I2. So
Sir,
A dot C will be common for the vector components B1, B2, B3, and A dot B will be common for the vector components I1, I2, I3 of C1, C2 of the vector C. Okay, so it is sorry, there is no one here. Any questions? Any questions? Hello, are you there? So are you people there or you have left?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So any questions now?
Sir, what was the motivation? What did we have to prove initially?
No, this is because many a times you'll have to calculate, you know, 3-vector products and so forth. Okay. So basically the physical interpretation is very simple. So B cross C is perpendicular to the plane B and C, right? The vector B
Yes,
cross C
yes,
is perpendicular to
yes.
plane B and C, and A cross B cross C is perpendicular to both A and the plane of B and C,
Yes.
or the perpendicular to the plane of B and C rather. Okay, B
Yes.
cross C is perpendicular to plane B and C. So A cross B cross C is perpendicular to A cross and the perpendicular of B and C. So it has to be a linear combination of B and C. Okay. So what are the coefficients? I get the coefficients here. So it's always a combination of B and C because the vector F lies in the plane of B and C. You follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Think about it for a while so you'll know it. Okay. So I can also have similarly this thing product of A dot B cross C I did and A cross B cross C I have done. So you can also generalize these things to other things like A cross B dot C cross D or A cross B cross C cross D. And these things you can obtain using the relationships that I've already derived. So, you know, you take this as the vector A in our problem, this vector, okay? And this vector becomes C cross D, so it is something like, so let us say that I can say I can take this as the vector G. So I can put C cross D in terms of B and C and D. So it will become A cross B dot C minus A cross B dot D, okay, times the vectors here. We can use this relationship by using G as the vector A and C cross D as the vector C and B. C and B are replaced by C and D. So you can write down the expressions for those.
So the vector F should be equals to A dot C into B1.
What is it?
So vector F should be equal to A dot C into B1 minus A dot B into C1.
No, that's only for the component F1. For the entire vector, it is a vector B.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, so I did it only for the component I1. Okay. So any other questions?
Sir, could you tell me what exactly is F vector?
See, F vector is just the triple product of A, B, and C.
Okay.
So sometimes you come across this, particularly in electrodynamics.
Yes. So, sir, the cross products you have expressed it in terms of dot products.
No, I'm not expressing cross product is a vector. Do you agree?
Yes, cross products will give vector.
Here it's a vector, it's a combination of the vector B and vector C.
Yes.
This is vector B and this is a vector C. And there's a coefficient which is given by A dot C. That's
Okay.
a scalar.
Yes.
So this is actually equal to some alpha times B minus beta times C. And alpha is equal to A dot C, beta is equal to A dot B. So this is F is still a vector.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions? No?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I just said the cross product can be the cross product is vectors, but So there's one property that the cross products don't obey. You know, for the vectors, the inversion of coordinates is
Correct. So
if-
they are pseudo vectors.
okay, sir. I mean,
Okay. So in that sense, because if you go from right-handed to left-handed coordinate system, the cross product does not change. Okay, so that's because they are pseudo vectors. Any other question? No? Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay, so you can turn on your cameras so I know that you people are there. Okay, so what we will do is we'll meet again on Wednesday, 10:30, and I'll go to applications of this vector algebra to solid geometry. Okay, three-dimensional geometry, like equation to a line, equation to a plane, equation to a sphere, and so forth in 3 dimensions. Okay, so hopefully, where is Ganesh Kumar, Arpita Panda, Vishnu Goswami, Palni Ghosh, Shiva Bishwas, Ram Jay Kumar, Shishish, Kashish Taneja? I don't see cameras on them. Yeah, how about Ganesh Kumar? So I see someone else also showed up. Okay, I want to make one point very clear. Attending classes is not compulsory. Okay, but as long as you pass your exams and as long as you submit your assignments. Okay, but if you don't attend classes, don't come back to me and say, oh, I didn't know it was not done. If you are smart enough to manage by yourself, I don't want to come in your way. But you have to submit compulsorily all the assignments and you have to appear for exams in order to get a grade. And in case it happens that you screw up because you have not attended the course, then it is not my problem. So you can choose to attend or not attend the lectures as per your wish. If you think all this is very simple, well, you can stop attending, but then I can tell you one thing, that not everything is going to be simple. Okay. Okay, so we'll meet again on Wednesday, 10:30. Okay. Okay, then bye.
okay, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you, sir.
So you can all leave.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sir, any reference textbook?
The reference for this is, there's a book called G.E. Hay.
Again, please.
G.E. Hay. Let me write it down for you.
Yeah.
So that is the book I am following right now for vector algebra. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
so the students of IISc can only join this course now, matlab they cannot edit the course.
Why not? Why can't they attend the course?
I'm not confirmed about it. That's why I asked.
Huh?
So actually, I don't know that. That's why I asked.
No, no, you can attend the course. There is nothing that prevents you from attending the course.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yes.
Who is this who asked me that question?
Sir Ritika.
Oh, Ritika Rani. Okay. Okay then. So see you on Wednesday. Bye.